I'm recording this just as the Bears are about to lose their playoff game today. So I'm sorry to all of you Bears fans out there. But in their honor, I'm going to begin with a sports mushal, with an analogy from sports that I hope you'll find meaningful whether you are a Bears fan or not, whether you're a sports fan or not. But I think it clarifies the point that I would like us to think about today. Today, as I mentioned, was the first round of the National Football League playoffs, which means this past week was a time for teams who didn't have so much success this year, or maybe had disappointing seasons, to reflect and to make some changes. A few teams fired their coaches. A couple of teams even fired their general managers. Teams are planning for changes in their leadership and their players for a better future. And if you are a fan of a team who, for example, fired their coach, you hope and you wish and you dream that your team is going to hire a new coach and everything is going to work out perfectly. He's going to slide right in and things are going to be seamless. He's going to get along with the players. He's going to be able to instill his new schemes and ideas. The whole culture of the team is going to change. Everyone's going to stay healthy. Everyone's going to get along. Everyone's going to play their best. And although this past year may have been a terrible one, next year is going to be amazing. And maybe once in a while, that's how it works. But that is certainly not the norm. Usually, when there are major changes in a team, it takes a long time. It takes months, sometimes years, before things really get better. It takes time for people to adjust to each other, players to the coach and coach to the players. It takes time to instill new ideas and new strategies. And very often, in fact, it actually gets worse before it gets better. But you hope and you trust that even if sometimes you take one or two steps back, in the long run, down the road, things will be better tomorrow than they were yesterday. This week in Parshas Shemos, we meet Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, I don't need to read you Moshe's resume of accomplishments. Lo kam od navi b'Yisrael. There was never a greater prophet than Moshe Rabbeinu in the history or future of the world. No one like Moshe. Moshe was the greatest leader we've ever had. But Moshe had a very bittersweet, perhaps tragic, ending to his life. He didn't get to accomplish everything that he sought out to accomplish. He had hoped and dreamed of bringing Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim, getting the Torah and bringing us into Eretz Yisrael. Well, he led us out of Mitzrayim, and he received the Torah and taught it to us for many years. But as we know, Moshe sadly was denied entry into Eretz Yisrael. You and I have flown to Israel to visit. Moshe was never allowed. And he ended his life begging and pleading, praying, davening to Hashem, please let me go in. Until Hashem finally said, Al tosef dabari lai od b'davar hazeh. Stop asking me. Don't ask anymore. The answer is a final no. And we generally understand, and the Torah seems to even say this in Parshas Ha'azinu, that the reason Moshe was denied entry into Eretz Yisrael is because he hit the rock. He was supposed to talk to the rock at Meberiva, and he hit it. And because of that, he wasn't allowed to go into Eretz Yisrael. And there's, of course, truth to that. But really, it started a lot earlier. If you look closely at the Psukim and Rashi at the end of Parshas Shemos, we'll see that Moshe struggled with something on his own level. Moshe had a challenge that began long before the episode of hitting the rock, before he received the Torah, before even plague number 1 in Egypt. The seeds were already planted for Moshe's leadership to end earlier than he had hoped. You know, sometimes we forget how contentious the beginning of Moshe's leadership was. Hashem comes and asks him to go and speak to Paro and to lead Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim, and Moshe says, no, I'm not the right guy. Who am I? There's a lot of back and forth until Hashem tries to persuade, convince, basically forces Moshe into the role, and Moshe relents. Okay, if you're giving me no choice, I'll go. But even after that, things don't go so smoothly, because the first time Moshe goes and speaks to Paro, he says, let my people go. What does Paro say back? Not just no, but, unsurprisingly, Paro decides to make things worse. It's a chutzpah to go and ask Paro, can your entire slave labor force leave? Paro is a ruthless, evil dictator. And not so shockingly, he says, just the fact that you asked, now I'm not even going to give them straw anymore. They'll have to repair the same number of materials and achieve the same results and put in even more work. So Moshe comes to Hashem pretty furious. Now Moshe is really frustrated, and he basically yells at Hashem. These are the final 3 psukim of Parshas Shemos. Vayoshav Moshe al Hashem vayomar. Moshe returns to Hashem and says, this is Perek Hey, Pasuk Chav Beis, Hashem, lama hareos lama zeh? Lama zeh shalach tani? Why are you making things worse? for these people. Why did you send me? It's like, I told you so. I told you this is what was going to happen. I came to Paro, and I spoke in your name. I did what you asked. And so far, he's only made things worse. You've done nothing to save your people. Can you imagine? If these words didn't come from Moshe Rabbeinu, we would think it's an incredible chutzpah. And Hashem doesn't seem to be too thrilled with it either. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe. Hashem says to Moshe, this is the final pasuk of Parshas Shemos. Atat yir'eh asher e'aseh leFaro. Now you will see what I will do to Paro. Ki biyad chazaka yishalchem. He will send them out with a mighty arm. Uviyad chazaka yigarshem me'eretzo. He'll end up chasing them out of his land. And as we know in Parshas Va'era and Bo, we read about the 10 Makos, and ultimately that is exactly what happens. But Rashi says there's more meaning to this pasuk than even meets the eye. Hashem was saying to Moshe very specifically, Atat yir'eh, now you will see the miracles that I will do. But hirharta al midosai, you have questioned my ways. You've complained against what's happened so far. Lo ke Avram, not like Avram, and Rashi continues and brings an example. Avram trusted me, even when things seemed confusing. Even when he didn't understand, he didn't ask in the way that you are. But because you have, lefikach atatir ha'asur leParo tireh, you will see what is done to Paro. Now you will see this Exodus. V'lo ha'asur lemalchei shiva umos k'she'avim la'aretz. You will not see the miracles that will happen later. You will not be there to participate or to witness what will happen to the 7 nations of Canaan when Bnei Israel battle, conquer, and settle in the land of Israel. It was at this moment, Rashi says, citing the Bereshis Rabbah, that it was determined that Moshe would not be our leader in conquering Eretz Yisrael. That would have to be someone else. Of course, it turns out to be Yoshua. I have a couple questions on this. Firstly, what was Moshe thinking? Did Moshe lack faith in Hashem? Did he think Hashem couldn't do it, God forbid? Why is he arguing on Hashem? Trust Hashem. Doesn't he know what he's doing? Moreover, if this was a fatal flaw in Moshe's leadership, why does Hashem say to him, I'm very upset that you're questioning me? Unlike Avraham, okay, you can continue being the leader for now, for plague 1, 2, 3, all the way through 10, Kriyas Yamsuf, receive the Torah. It's Eretz Yisrael, specifically, the land of Israel, that you can't cross into. Why is that where the line is drawn? If Moshe is not a capable leader, then find someone new now. And if he can continue being the leader, then why can't he lead us into Eretz Yisrael? Why is that where Hashem says it must end? So I want to share with you the explanation of Rav Shimon Schwab. For those of you who have been joining us on Tuesday nights to learn from the Siddur, we have been using Rav Schwab's Sefer and explanations on the Siddur as an important guide into understanding our tefillos. This is a beautiful Sefer that I've quoted from before as well on the Chumash, one of my favorites, and his explanation here is excellent. He cites from Parshas Mishpatim, where Hashem is describing to Moshe what it's going to be like when we conquer the land of Israel. Perek Chav Gimel Pasuk Lamed, says Hashem, Me'at me'at agarshenu mipanecha. Little by little I will chase them out from before you. Ad asher tifrev v'nachal ta'as ha'aretz, until you become many, and then you will be able to settle into your portions in the land. Hashem specifically describes to Moshe that the conquering of Israel is going to occur little by little, slowly, me'at, me'at. We know very well, those of us who have been learning Sefer Yoshua together on Shabbos afternoons, that's exactly what happens. It takes 7 years, city to city to city, one at a time, until finally Yoshua and Bnei Israel conquer the land in its entirety. Why couldn't Hashem just do it very quickly? Why couldn't Hashem just do it in 1 year, 1 day, 1 moment? Does Hashem lack that ability? Of course not. But Hashem told Moshe, this is specifically how I want it done. Hashem was teaching Moshe and Bnei Israel, Rav Schwab explained, that true growth, when trying to conquer something, in this case it was Eretz Yisrael, whatever it is in your life that you're trying to achieve, the best way, the healthiest way, the way of the world, is that things must be done me'at, me'at. Little by little, slowly. As much as we may wish and dream that things can be fixed and can be grown and can be made better overnight or in a week. That's just not how things usually happen. Rav Schwab coins the phrase. He says this is the term called tocheles. The word tocheles I'd probably loosely translate as waiting. It doesn't just mean standing around waiting and doing nothing. What it means is when you're investing time and determination into something, to really accomplish something great, it takes patience and persistence. Waiting, understanding that it takes time for things to develop and to really achieve what we want to. Rav Schwab notes that in Parshas Noach, as the world is being destroyed and Noach and his family are in the ark, Noach wants to check and see, is it time to go out yet and begin to rebuild? And he sends a bird, and the bird returns, which indicates that there is no place for it to rest. There's no dry land. So in Perek Ches Pasuk Yud, the Torah tells us, Viyakhel od shivas yamim. Noach waited another 7 days, and then he sent it again. And it came back with an alei zayis. The dove is holding an olive branch in its mouth. So he knows that some of the trees are visible, have resurfaced, but there's still no dry land for the bird to live on. Vayachel od shivas yamim. In Pasuk Beis, he waited another 7 days. Vayachel tocheles. Hashem was teaching Noach that as much as you wish that we can just rebuild the world overnight and it can go back to the way it was supposed to be. Society can be regrown in a moment. That's just not how it works. You have to develop the midah, the character trait of tocheles, of patience and persistence, understanding that things take time. The Gemara Maseches Brachos on Daf Lamed Beis says, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, anybody who davens a long tefillah, and then right when he's done, immediately starts checking to see if it worked, if it was answered. I davened for my portfolio, for my stocks to go up, and as soon as I'm done with the Shemona Esrei, I start checking on my phone. Shouldn't take out your phone in Shul anyway, but I start checking right away, right after davening. I'm in my car and I'm checking to see, did it work? Sof balidei ke'ev leiv, your end will be a pain in your heart. Ne'emar tocheles mimushacha machala leiv. Not how tefillah works. We don't daven and then in a moment, in an instant, it's fixed. As much as we wish that's how things were, it would be nice. That's not the way of the world. Rather, a few lines later, the Gemara continues and says, Am Rabbi Chama, Rabbi Chanina, Imra'a Adam, Shispala v'lo na'ana. If a person realizes or sees that he's davening and it doesn't feel like he's being answered, he's not getting what he's asking for, what is the remedy? Yachzor v'yispalel. Daven again. V'ne'emar kavel Hashem chazak v'yametz libecha v'kavel Hashem. We turn to Hashem, we daven, we strengthen our heart, and then we turn to Hashem again. Kavel Hashem. Daven again, shacharis, mincha, mar. Things take time. We don't daven once and then expect that it's fixed. We daven shacharis, mincha, mar, day after day, week after week, knowing that of course tefillah works. But like everything else in the world, we have to have tocheles. We have to have the patience and persistence to realize that things take time. One of the great challenges of life, if you think of any of the goals we may have set for ourselves or any of the endeavors that we've embarked upon and maybe not gotten there or given up or failed, so often it is because it took a lot of time and persistence that we weren't willing to invest. I mean, think about starting a business. I was talking to a friend recently who works for a startup company in Silicon Valley, and I asked if they were making money yet. The company's been around for, I don't know, maybe a year or two. And he laughed. He said, making money? We haven't even thought about making money. Right now, we're just spending a lot of other people's money. In 5-10 years, we'll think about making money. If you start a business, you can't check the profits the next day or the next week or even the next year and make your decision based upon that. It takes time. Like we said at the beginning, sometimes things get worse before they get better. You have to invest in order to achieve long-term growth. Imagine if we could exercise, and as soon as we were done exercising, we felt the immediate impact. We felt healthy. We felt energized. We felt our blood flowing. We felt our heart beating the way we wish it could. It would be easy. But the reason that we stop is because in order to achieve the results that we want, it takes time, persistence, it takes tocheles. Why is davening so hard? Because like the Gemara says, I daven, and then I check, and nothing happened. Nothing changed. It was hard for me to focus. I asked for something, wasn't answered. Like everything else in life, it takes time. Day after day, patience and persistence. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu himself, on his own level, if we could say such a thing, struggled with. Moshe came to Hashem and said, of course I know you could do this. Of course I know that you're stronger than Paro and you'll be able to lead Bnei Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. But why are things getting worse? Do it already. Fix it. Take them out. Why do we seem to be taking a step backwards? Why are things getting worse before they get better? And Hashem says to Moshe, I'll let you finish this job. You're a good leader. You're a great leader. You're an incomparable leader. But when we enter into Eretz Yisrael, I need someone. I need someone who will be able to lead Bnei Yisrael me'at agarshenu min haaretz. Who can lead Bnei Yisrael patiently from city to city, from place to place, slowly, piece by piece. Moshe wanted to see results very quickly. He got frustrated when things weren't fixed overnight. And that's why Hashem says to him, you won't be the one to lead us into Eretz Yisrael. If this is something that you struggle with, or that I struggle with, let's be honest, we all struggle with it. Firstly, we should find comfort in understanding that Moshe Rabbeinu himself struggled with this. But let's think of something in our life that we wanted, or maybe that we've tried in the past, but we gave up because it wasn't happening quick enough. And let's recommit ourselves to trying it with persistence, with tocheles, realizing it might take a month, a year, 2, 5, or 20. But ultimately, it's with that determination and patience that we can conquer whatever we've dreamed of in our own lives. Have a great week.